Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Um, Everybody's doing well today, and so I see that there are a couple of people online right now. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about what we did yesterday, and then before we dive into lesson two. Lesson two is actually extremely short, and yeah. So let's just kind of go back to lesson one, kind of review what we did yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the three measures of central tendency, and we talked about the mean, how to calculate the mean, how to determine the median, and how to determine the mode. And each of these three central tendency um, have like different ways of figuring it out. So just to kind of refresh our memory from yesterday, we said mean. Mean is where we add things up together, add things up, and then whatever we get, we divide it by how many data there are, how many numbers we have in our list. So that's the means. That was pretty straightforward. And then we talked about median. Like when you think about median, this is how I think about it. Median is what's in the middle. So to figure out the middle, we have to arrange it, the data from lowest to largest. And once we've arranged the data from lowest to largest, we can figure out what's the middle. Sometimes when we have odd number of data, there's one middle number, and that's our median. Um, when we looked at example number 4 yesterday, there are 6 data, so even number of data. As you can see, there's no middle number. So what we had to do, we had to do a little bit of work in here, and we said that after we arrange it, we're gonna pick the middle two, and then take the mean of the middle two. So that's that one right there. Okay. And example 5 yesterday, there's a different way of organizing the data in. So it's in the frequency table. This is something that we've already seen in grade 11 math. So that was kind of nice introduction of statistics when we were in grade 11. So the frequency tells you how many of this data there are. So how many 25s? There's 3 of them. How many 26? There's 3 of them, and so on. And then we arrange them and then figure out the middle number, which is the median. Median is the middle. And then the last one we said is the most. And this one here, there's really not a lot of there's no calculation involved. What we need to do is figure out which one is repeated most often, most popular, shows up the most. Those are the things that we can look at and see, okay, which one is the most popular data in here? And that's how you figure out the mode. Okay, so yesterday, I assigned and I asked you to work on practice number 1, and there are lots and lots of questions in here. So please let me know if there is anything in assignment number 1, practice number 1, that you want me to go over, and I will go over it with you. So if you have, so I'll take this moment now to kind of wait for you to let me know if there's anything in here that you want me to go over. Okay, so is there anything in this page? Oh, there are actually 2 pages, page 4 and page 5. Anything in here that you want me to go over? Um, you could send me a message on the chat. Okay, my Okay. Now, if you have any questions in here, feel free to let me know which ones you want me to go over, and I'll be happy to go over it with you. If you don't have anything right now, that like maybe um, tomorrow, if you have a question and it's like, oh, I'm wondering which, if you could go over something, then let me know tomorrow. Okay. Let me see here. That's Well, if there are no questions, I'm actually just looking to see if there's any message, and there doesn't seem to be any questions at the moment. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna just dive right in lesson number 2, which is trimmed mean. Now, I'll have my calculator ready, so I hope you have your calculator ready as well, so we can do the math together. So it says here, meat trimmed. Okay, well, what comes into mind when we say trim? What comes to mind when somebody says trim? So when you look at that trim, what you're probably thinking, oh yeah, trim means cutting off, right? Cut off, right? So that's what trimming is, right? And when you go to a parlor, you go to a barber, you want a trim of your hair, like yeah, you're gonna get a something, some parts of your hair cut off, right? So that's what trimming means. Trimming, cutting off something. Well, what? And then I'll mention that later. Uh, just focusing on the wording right now. So what does the word mean? We talked about that yesterday. Mean is basically from lesson 1. Okay, we said that whatever to calculate the mean or the average, we add things up and then divide it by how many there are. Okay, so when we look at this one, trimmed, cutting off something, and then whatever we have, we're gonna take the average of it. So that's what trimmed means. So let's get into example number 1. And like I said, this is gonna be a short lesson. We got lots of time to work on our practice questions later. So um, so their hourly wages. So Mr. Jimenez and his 19 factor from the last section in question number 2 in practice assignment, their hourly wages were in dollars. So these are the hourly wages of 19 factor employees or workers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So Mr. Jimenez and his 19 employees. So Mr. Menace is a person making the 550 an hour because I guess he's the owner, right? Um, so including this extremely different wage skews means throws off the result. Skew, it means to kind of changes our our average or our mean. So we consider his wage an outlier. Okay, well, there's another term here that we are going to be paying attention of, outlier. Well, what is an outlier? An outlier is the data value that is much larger or much smaller than the rest of the data set. So this is an outlier is like something that's extremely off. It's either too large or too small. Okay, so when an outlier occur, a trimmed mean is sometimes used to remove the outlier and provide a more realistic mean. So the mean of this data shows 3845. So when we look at this data here, they're saying, hey, if I add this all up, if I add all of these up, the mean would be 3845. So let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so okay, so adding this up, it's 769, and then that's where the 3845 came from. Okay, so we added all of these up as the mean. We add them all up and then divided by 20 data, so it's 3845. Now you're thinking, okay, the average is 3845, which doesn't make sense. Most of these people are not earning not even close to 3845, right? So it's saying that this number pulls the average up because it's such a big number that we are considering in our calculation. It actually pulls the average up or the mean up. So it says here, let's take a look. Determine the trimmed mean of the data above. If you trim the top score and the bottom score, note the top means the highest and the bottom means the lowest, what will happen? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim. And because we're trimming this, um, we're gonna have an even type of trim. Okay, we're not just gonna trim the highest, but we're also gonna trim one of the lowest. So make an even trim. So that means one highest and one lowest. Okay, so okay, I can see that more people joined us today, so I welcome to those people who are joining us just now. So make an even trim. So I'm gonna look back up here and says which is the highest that I'm gonna trim. So I'm gonna trim the highest and I'm gonna trim the lowest. Well, the lowest would be the 11, so I'm gonna trim these two. Okay, lowest and the highest. So how many am I gonna be left? Okay, so now we only have, well, that is weird. I'm gonna straighten this up. We only have 18 data, right? Because we started off with 20, but we cut off the highest, and then we cut off the lowest. We are now left with 18 data. Okay, so now we take the mean of these data. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go here, mean is equals to, I'm supposed to add all of these up and divide it by 18. Okay, so I'm just gonna do we're gonna add all of these up. Okay, so let's add them up. Okay, so I got, after adding the 18 data that's left, I got 208. Okay, so I'm just gonna verify. Ooh, that, yeah, it dropped dramatically. Okay, now another possibility, and you're probably thinking about this already. So when I added all of these up, it came up to 769. Okay, so here's another way of doing that. It's probably a shorter way. All of these add up to 769, but we got these two off. So another possibility is 769. I trimmed these off, so I'm gonna take away 11 and I'm gonna take away the 550. So I'm left with 208. So that's another possibility. Okay, so uh, mean is 208 divided by how many data? Like I said earlier, there are only 18 data left, so divided by 18. So let's do the math for that. 208 divided by 18, and then we're going to get 1156. 11. So I'm already rounding this off. $11.56. Now when you look at this, 1156 is the average wages. And if you look, yeah, it does match the data in here. Okay, so this 1156, that's the average. That's the average of all of these. And okay, it's not far off from the data that we have. Okay, so do you think the trimmed mean is a better approximation of the hourly wage at this factory? Yes. 1156 um, is close value for the average wage since pretty much all employees, since all employees make, um, since all employees see, I'm going to put an apostrophe there to make it, since all employees' wage are close to the calculated trimmed mean. Okay, so when you look at this, 1156 compared to 38, yeah, it's closer to pretty much all of the employees' wage in the example above. Okay, I'm just going to take a brief moment here to help you or to let you copy that down. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to copy that down. Okay. Okay. So I see that another person just joined us just now, so welcome. And so all of these, if you are still writing this down, and if you're just joining us just now, yeah, you can copy this later. I'll scan it and then you can copy it again. Okay. So let's take a look at this one right here. So the following data shows Elsie's test result for the last 8 tests in the science class. And this is all in percent. Okay, so these are the test results 87, 93, 88, 76, 65, 72, 12, and a 91. Okay, so now you're taking a look at this. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. But then there's this one test that's just awful, right? So now what we're going to do, we're going to calculate Elsie's mean test mark. Okay, that's just regular mean. Okay, regular mean. And how do we do that again? We add all of them up. We add up all the data and then divide it by how many there are. So we're going to write down mean is equal to, okay, instead of writing everything down, I'm just going to add them all up, okay, and then write down whatever answer I get. So I'm going to add these numbers up. Okay, so you go ahead and do that too. And please let me know if you're not agreeing with me. Okay, I got 584. Okay, I got 584. Just to kind of double check that again. Yeah, 584. Okay, so the sum after we add them up, I got 584 in here. And then we're going to divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 tests, so divided by 8 tests. And what's the average from there? So 584 divided by 8. So the average is 73. And remember, this is a mark, so it's going to be 73%. Okay, well, that's not so bad. Now, that's just the regular mean. What if we calculate the trimmed mean? Okay, trimmed mean. And if we trim the top, which is the highest, and the bottom, which is the lowest score, okay, or data. So the word score is the same thing as the word data. Now, which number are we going to trim in here? So for trimming, we're going to trim the top. Oh, okay, trim the top, which is the highest right there, the 91%. And we're also going to trim the bottom, which is the lowest. And the lowest is 12. Okay, so we started off with 8 tests, but we trimmed 2. Okay, with 8 data, but we trimmed 2 data. So we are left 6 left, right? So we only got 6 data left. So let's figure out the trimmed mean. So trimmed mean, I'm gonna write that down. Trimmed mean is equals to, we're gonna add all of these up, all 6 of them. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and add them up? Ooh. Oh my goodness, yes, thank you. Isabel, thanks so much. Thank you. Okay, I'm glad that somebody said something. I would have gotten a wrong number. So I actually, thank you so much. Somebody says, no, you're not true. 91 is not the highest. It's actually 93. And she is correct. Thank you for that. I'm so glad someone's seeing that as well. Okay, let's trim this one. Okay. Okay. So trimmed mean. So yeah, we're still down to 6. So now I'm gonna go here and add them all up. 87. Okay. So I got 479. Okay, great. Okay, I'll give you a time to add them up too and tell me if that's yes or no, if that's what you got. Try it again. Okay, yeah, I think that's okay. So 479 divided by, there are only 6, so I'm going to divide by 6. And now I got a new average of 79.83%. Okay, so because we've trimmed the outlier, now which one's the outlier in here? The outlier is the extremely low data, extremely low mark. Okay, and so that, because that's a low data, it pulled the average down or the mean down. But when we did the trimmed mean, okay, there's no outlier that pulls the average down. You know how like when somebody has like one bad test and then all of a sudden their average goes down? That's basically what the outlier does. And then if we don't count the outlier, okay, but we have to have an even trim, then our average will go higher. So which mean, normal or trimmed, do you think is a better indication of Elsie's test performance for this class? I would say trimmed mean is a better indication of her test performance because the 12% on one test is an outlier that pulls or bring brings her average down. Okay, so trimmed mean is better. So trimmed mean is better. Okay, because there's such thing. There's the 12% that is called an outlier. Okay, so if we trim that, then it looks like she's just one bad test. That's not really how her performance is. Okay, so thank you. Okay, are there any questions about that? Okay, so we're gonna go to the final question in here, final example. Okay, I'll just take um take a few seconds to kind of let you think about that. Okay, so so far there's no question. Okay, let's go to example 3. That's the last example. Okay, So your friend Denise was trying to calculate the trimmed mean. She's trying to calculate the trim mean. And these are the data, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 data. Okay. And she's going to try to trim. And this is her work. So she trimmed this and she trimmed this, add them up, add up the leftover. And then there are 4 left, so divided by 4. And she got 63. So, okay. You're probably thinking, okay, what's wrong with that one? Okay. What can we do? Is she correct? Is she correct? What do you think? Is she correct on this one? So because we're trying to do the trimmed mean, we're going to trim the highest score and then the lowest score, the top and then the bottom score. So is she correct? She's not correct because she did not trim the highest and lowest score or data. Okay, so that's another word for data or number. Okay, she just when she said trim the top and bottom, she thought that the top is the front, the first, and the last. That's not what the trim mean is. We're trimming off the highest and the lowest. Okay, so in this case, what's the correct data that needs to be trimmed? Okay, this is the lowest. Okay, and I got to be careful here that I don't make mistake again. And then the highest is 93. Okay, so we're going to trim, like this one here is extremely low. That's an outlier, right? That's extremely low. So once we, okay, I'll cross this off and that's off. And then we're left with 4 data. So we're going to do the trim mean. Okay. So the trim mean would be adding all of these numbers up. Okay. Okay, I got 291. Okay. So I'll give you time to add those up too and see if you get the same number as me. Okay, I'll try it again just to make sure. Okay, yeah, it is 291. 291 divided by 4, that data that's left, divided by 4. And I got 72.75. And I have no idea what she's trying to do here, what this data is about. So yeah, I don't know what the unit to put in there, but the trimmed mean is 72.75. Okay, so that's the notes for today. It's a short one, and there are just a few questions at the back, not as many as yesterday's assignment question. So yeah, we got plenty of time to work on some of these questions. So please give them a try. And remember that the answer key is at the back just to make sure that to check to see if your answers are correct. Okay, so the answer key is at the back. Oops, it's not the answer. Okay, so work it out first, and then your answer is right here. Okay, double check it. Um, I hope that's going well for you. And if you have any questions, you can certainly send me a message through the blog, and it will go directly to my email. And yeah, and tomorrow, let's say tomorrow's class, and tomorrow, what are we going to do? We're going to talk about weighted means. Weighted means. Um, so when we do weighted means tomorrow, we'll we'll also take up any questions that you have. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this with you for now, and I will have the scanned notes very shortly. So I'll have that up and going again. Okay, well, I hope you had a great lesson today. I hope you had a great learning, and I appreciate you coming to class and seeing some of you online. So I'm so happy for that. Well, leave that with you, and I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay, bye for now.